Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Bienvenidos a ¿Qué Pasa Mujer? Welcome to ¿Qué Pasa Mujer? We're excited every Sunday that we meet because it is truly a privilege to be able to have this platform with Pot TV and to be able to have the conversations that we have here, completely transparent, authentic, and all of that good stuff. Maddie is not with us today, but don't worry, we still have a poem at the end of the show. And we have a very extremely special guest, and we're going to get right to it because, as you know, every time we have a guest, we always run out of time. So we're going to go ahead and bring Mike Torres. Our producer, Mark, is going to bring him on so we could go ahead and get started. Hi, Mike. Welcome. Thank
Hey,
you so much. We always appreciate your time because it is on a Sunday right before dinner time. So usually our guests are hungry. So as soon as we're done with the show, the stomach is going all over the place.
right.
But we do appreciate your time. And this is something that we have talked about having you on the show for a long time. And finally, I do believe that everything does happen for a reason, and it's time when it's needed. And so I think this is the perfect time to have you on today. And so again, I'm extremely appreciative and extremely excited. There are some things that I know about you, but I know there's lots of things that I don't know. And as I told you before the show started, I don't usually read people's bios whenever we have a guest because I want them to learn about you as I learn. So that's kind of like the flow of the show. So thank you again.
I love it. I love it. I'm always down for a go with the flow. Um, and so, yes, I do believe timing seasons, and I think this is a great time. It's a good season to kind of get on and connect. I'm Mike Torres. So I'm a dual kind of community leader here in the city of Newport News. I am the volunteer and outreach coordinator for Latinos in Virginia Empowerment Center. It's a group that works with victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking within the Latino community. And we provide a numerous array of services just to help people kind of get ahead and get out of these situations. And then dually with that, I'm actually a senior pastor for Oasis de Vida Christian Church here in Newport News. And we have a location here in in the heart of Newport News and also in the city of Chesapeake. So super excited, just trying to get out into the community, do the best we can to kind of bring hope and of course community to those people that are in need for a connection. So thank you, Viviana, for having me on.
Yes, this is awesome. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit, because you mentioned these two things that you do, but they're so time consuming, and I know this is truly your passion. I think I met you. I don't know if it's been a year or two already, but every time that we see each other, I just feel like I've known you for a long time. I just think that we have very similar hearts, very similar passions when it comes to community people. I want you to tell me a little bit about your passion. Like, what is your passion? How did you realize that it was your passion? Let's start there.
Passion. I think that's a deep word, right? So looking at like what really made me passionate. I grew up an artsy kid, so I was always into like drawing. I was always into music. For a little while, I actually have a couple of music videos and things like that. So I was touring a little bit in Latin America. So we went to a couple of Latin American countries, and then life kind of led me into the hotel world. Where I became a hotelier and I was in hospitality for about 15, 16 years. And I think that's where, Viviana, I can use the word passion. I realized that my passion was in serving others. I really just enjoy serving others. And so I made it, I worked for Marriott International for about 15 years, ran a few hotels, and really realized that it was fun for me to be able to create experiences for those that were coming either on vacation or business. And then, of course, it partnered specifically with what I do now with Latinos in Virginia Empowerment Center and also Oasis de Vida. So after 15, 16 years in hospitality, I decided to go full ministry and go straight into the nonprofit space. And so, like, I think my greatest passion now is in serving my fellow man. I think we focus a lot on like career driven goals, right? Like I want to get to a place where I love my career. I'm making money, I have my house, I have my perfect wife, my perfect kids, or vice versa, husband and kids. And I think you realize that once you reach those things, there's something missing. There's something more, right? And without going into anything like super spiritual or anything like that, we know that there are things that can only fill voids in our life when we're something when it's outside of ourselves. And that's where I get my passion in finding out that I really just wanted to serve my community in the best way possible that I could. And so like that's where Viviana sees me in like spreading the message. And if you call me for an event, I'm going to be there. I'm going to set up a table and I'm going to tell you all about how we can help the people within our community. And so that's what I love.
Yeah, definitely. I could tell. I think the pivotal, different pivotal things happen throughout our lifetime. But for me, I'm kind of like getting to my end of my 40s. And so you look at life different every year when your birthday comes, right? Especially when you start ending one and starting another one, right? Like the 30s going into the 40s, the 40s going into the 50s. And for me lately, I love the fact that I can get up in the mornings and I live my passion, right? Um, and I think I preach this to young people. Ultimately, your goal is to be able to get up in the morning and enjoy what you do. And it's definitely not a money thing. At the end of the day, it's not money, it's not material things, is the relationships that we have with people. It's
Yes.
the like what did I do? How did I impact, for me anyway, how did I impact community? How did I impact my tight circle of my children, my mother, my grandmother? How did I come to bring them together so that life could be seen different, right? So my grandmother's 90. She has hurt a lot. She has lived a lot. She has loved a lot. She has done a lot of everything, right? Without, of course, sacrifice, right? There's always a cost to everything. But I love the fact that when on days that she has like low moments, I'm able to come in and help her twist it, so that she can
Absolutely.
say, oh, like, I was able to do this exercise, even though my body hurts, but I am doing it, right? Because other people can't do it. So I just love that. And I think that that's, where you and I kind of like really come together, because it's extremely fulfilling. I think once we get to that point that we can get to experience our passion, it's
Yeah.
it's it's a feeling. I cannot find a word to describe it. And for me, that's the ultimate goal. One of the things, in reference to serving people, I know with your daytime job, um, there's people call you, I'm assuming, domestic violence, right? And this is men or women, because I know a lot of the times we hear domestic violence and we think women are being abused, but I know it happens to men as well. um tell me tell me what that does to you, right? And to because I think sometimes it's like a struggle and it's hurtful at the beginning, but then to be able to experience the positive outcomes, and then to also, how do you deal with those outcomes that didn't end so positive? How do you deal with that?
I mean, and number one, just to kind of circle back on the point that you made, right? When it comes down to the stats, domestic violence has no gender. Domestic violence has no zip code. It has no educational background, right? Domestic violence is just something that happens to a a wide array of people. And when we're talking about 1 in every 4 women experience it, now 1 in every 7 men are experiencing domestic violence in some way, shape, or form. And then domestic violence is not just, the whole fist to the face thing, right? Like we're talking about verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, uncertainties, especially in the climate that we're living now, right? Where you have, where now legal statuses and things are a thing. And so like there's a lot of threats that go on. So domestic violence is anything that tries to assert control over a person. We see this quite often. And I think what I tell people all the time, at first when I started it, so being the volunteer and outreach coordinator, I'm going to be honest, I'm the smiley face of the broader picture, right? So I'm the one that tells everybody, hey, that's what's there. The truth of the matter is that our advocates are the ones that do the heavy lifting, right? And I see the people, right? Like I'm out there talking about these people. And then I tell people, hey, when I'm training them or when I tell the volunteers, hey, this is what we're doing, I tell them the truth. The truth of the situation is that there's somebody right now losing their life because of domestic violence. And literally when these situations, when people, if I were to ask the question, how long does it take for a person that's being victimized to come out of a situation? Everybody from the outside looking in has hindsight 2027, like 2020. And so like when you're looking at a football game from the TV, you see all the mistakes the quarterback makes, right? And so like one of the things that I tell people is that it's real easy to tell somebody what to do when you're not in their situation, when you're not dealing with the uncertainty of, hey, if I leave this place, where are my kids going to sleep? Like, how am I going to be able to feed my children? How am I going to be able to sustain myself? And a lot of people have the mentality of like, hey, I'm going to stay in this situation because I'd rather put up with the abuse and have a roof over my head and my children's head and food in their mouths. And I can speak for the Latino culture. We were kind of taught that like you got to stick it out, right? No matter what the situation is, especially when it comes down to like our children and the suffering. And what we really heard is like life is hard and you got to suffer and you got to do all these. And the reality of the situation is that it lent itself to a lot of abuse within our communities. And so like what I see with people walking in, it's extremely sad. It's people that come to this country a lot of times because we deal with the Latino community. They have no family. They have no foundation here in this place. They don't. A lot of times they don't even know the language. And so trying to navigate that space as an American, having all access to these resources is still hard. Imagine going to a place where you can't speak the language, you don't understand the systems, you don't, and add that on top of everything else, right? And now with the way the society is shaping out fear for our community, it makes it even worse. So and without going too far into it, it's sad. It's sad to see this, but it's the reason that we're here. And I would say, like, we're having a fantastic quarter, right? Because we're able to reach the people that are in the communities, right? The sad part is that when we do well, it means that there's more domestic violence. But the fact that these people have a voice now, have a place to go to, gives us joy. And I think just to kind of like close out this, I guess my thought in this is, I think when you do something that you're passionate about, they say if you do what you're passionate about, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's how I feel. So Viviana, I definitely understand where you're coming from on that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely me every day. And I love the fact 'cause I'm an entrepreneur, so I love the fact that if I do feel like I've been doing too much, I could take off.
Right.
So that's definitely a perk. But yeah, I think it's I've studied the word fear a lot, right? Me personally throughout my lifetime, and I just think fear is like the big umbrella of so many things, right? And I just think that there's a lot of fear today because of immigration and everything that's happening in immigration. Recently, I've been working with a lot of families. So we're Mike and I are pretty much in Hampton Roads. We're in Virginia, and I've gone to a couple of the trailer homes. And what's happening is that husbands are getting arrested, and then 3 months later, they're getting actually deported back to their country. But in the meantime, the wives don't know where the husbands are at. And if they were to do, and then they're lacking because most of them are stay-home moms, right? So there's lack of food, medical assistance, legal assistance, and a lot of lack of education, right? So one of the ladies that I'm working with, we're working on educating people to have a plan in the event your spouse gets deported, right?
Absolutely.
Have these conversations now with your children so that it doesn't come at a surprise, right? So, like, I'm assuming the same thing with domestic violence in the Latino community. Maybe I never saw it, right? But as a woman, because it happens to women more, there should be conversations with your daughter or even with your son to say, hey, you don't ever want to find yourself in, kind of like when we're dating, calling it the red flags, right?
Yes.
To see certain things, and to have conversation. I think as parents, I'm big on making sure that we have a platform for our children so that they can be transparent with us and not have fear, because fear prevents you from communicating with me. And I'm big on that. I'm big on, when I was going through my divorce, I did that with my sons. I have two sons. My youngest is 15, the other one's 21. But at the time, anytime we would be in the car, that would be the platform. This is where you can say whatever you want. If you need to curse, if you need to tell a lie or you lied about something, there's no consequences. You get to say whatever you want to say in this space. Because I always wanted to have an open line of communication, because fear is so strong, and like you said, there's actually a lady that I was talking to about 2 weeks ago, and her mindset is, just wait it out, like it's not that bad, right? Like she was telling her daughter, you're gonna be 18 soon, you're gonna go to college, you won't have to go through what we're going through right now. And that is the mentality. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I think sometimes the mom was lacking empathy, because a lot of younger people don't see it the same way.
Yeah,
I think younger people are more like, I'm out, versus people my age are probably like, you're going to be 18 soon, and then you could leave, and then you don't have to be under this abuse here. And so I think it's a lot of it is education, right?
absolutely.
So one question that I had for you is, as people call in for the domestic violence, what type of education do you guys give to those families after the chaos is over?
Oh man. So really within Latinos in Virginia, and it's within the name. It's called the Empowerment Center. The bigger thing is not just going and getting protective orders, right? So we do help them with safety planning. We help them with getting protective orders. We're lifting up charges, things like that. But it's not just that, right? It's connecting them with resources within the community, making partners with people just like Viviana, right? And getting access to medical to medical help, getting access to legal help, getting access to financial help, getting access to shelter help. And so you have so many resources within the community. I think the word says it, right? Like, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And the important thing is to have the conversations and be open to search for the solutions within our community. There's a lot of people that just don't know how to find those things. And even if they did find them, like, one of the biggest things that we offer in Latinos in Virginia, I think, is one of the most important things. I always tell people when I'm talking to them, hey, say with me, I'm a bridge, right? Especially if you know that I'm a bridge. You're a bridge to be able to help people cross over into the benefits, into the resources that are at their disposal. In order for them to access it, they would have to know the language. But since you know the language, you're able to get them across that finish line. And no matter what your legal status is, right? I think a lot of fallacies are, the law doesn't protect me because I'm not a legal citizen, things like that. No matter what your legal status is in this country, and I know there's a lot of fear behind, like, the whole ICE thing and immigration. I get it, right? But it's nothing new, right? And so, like, the bigger thing is understanding how to navigate these spaces without fear, right? For, we don't carry around the spirit of fear. We have a spirit of power, of self-control, and of love. And I think the bigger thing is grabbing hold of our own lives, and understanding that we can get access to those resources. So if anybody's watching right now, si alguien está viendo esta programación y se cree que no tiene los mismos derechos que una persona que es un ciudadano americano, tú tienes los mismos derechos de tener protección, de vivir una vida que no está agobiada por violencia, por abuso, ni tampoco por maltrato, right? Las leyes están aquí todavía para protegerte. Obviamente tenemos que navegar un poquito diferente en estos tiempos, pero todavía la ley te protege y tú mereces vivir una vida sin violencia. I'm sorry, I had to go into our community real quick, but we all deserve to live in a place without violence, right? I think the other side of it is understanding the empathy piece, and I think that's a culture thing. I know growing up, like, and being a man and a Latino man, we were taught, you don't cry, the boys don't cry. Although, like, I'm really, really close with my mom, right? So, and me and my dad have a great relationship. My dad taught me how to be a man, and my mom taught me how to be in touch with my feelings, and that it was okay to cry. It was okay to feel things. It was okay to process my feelings. But I think that's not a thing in most households. And one of the things that I used to see is that, like, in previous, right? Like, I'm talking about my family. I'm going to talk about my grandmother, and they went through abuse. They went through these situations, and it was just a Monday, right? like going through getting hit, going through getting abused, going through getting cheated on, going through, it was just a Monday. It's just something that it was normal, right? But we know now it's not normal. There are so many things that were normalized within our communities that now we realize caused a lot of foundational scarring and hurting that we have to work through. And then to Viviana's point, if you don't have the conversation with your kids, guess what? Social media is going to have it. Their friends at school are going to have it, right? Somebody else that's not you, that doesn't love them, that doesn't care for them, that doesn't want the best for them, is going to have the conversations with them. So having that open communication line and talking about those hard topics is the key, right? Information. I'm going to say it again. Information. My people perish for lack of knowledge. And so it's our time in a day and age where knowledge is accessible everywhere. There's no excuse. Let's get it. Let's get the knowledge out there.
Yeah. Es verdad, nosotros siempre decimos aquí en este show la importancia de educación. Tenemos Google, tenemos YouTube, tenemos TikTok. TikTok, yo sé que tiene muchas cosas de entretenimiento, pero también hay mucha información si la buscas, si la buscas está ahí. Yo me acuerdo cuando yo empecé a conocer latinos en Virginia, I Googled it.
Right.
Alguien me llamó que necesitaba ayuda. So I Googled, hey, what can we do? And then you guys popped up. I know Latinos in Virginia started in Richmond, correct? In Richmond, Virginia. And then you guys expanded to tell us a little bit about the expansion of Latinos in Virginia. I know when I spoke to the founder, she told me we're getting so many calls from Hampton Roads that they were really considering opening another facility down here. So tell me a little bit about that.
I love the initiative of Latinos in Virginia. If you've spoken to Elvira de la Cruz, who is our CEO, she's been in the nonprofit space for quite some time, and her story is amazing. Like, she's an immigrant, came over to this area, came over into the States, has really just built an amazing life for herself, and decided to dedicate her life into becoming a bridge for her community. And so it started off as a grassroots initiative. It was just an idea, Viviana, in 2008. It was a bunch of friends that got together. They would find people that were in need and needed some information in their community. And so they would get together and solve the need. Well, they started to notice that more and more people were like looking for them and asking them questions. And so what started off as an idea in 2008, then formalized in 2018 as just a resource center. Like, it was just Latinos in Virginia Empowerment Center, but it was more of a resource center. It was like people would call in and get connected to other places, and they were just a bridge. But then it evolved into what it is today, which is an organization that manages about $2.5 million in grant funding and donations, right, to help people within the community to get out of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking. How do we do that, right? People come in. We have a 24/7 hotline. We are able to connect them with support groups. We have licensed therapists that are part of our staff that help our clients. So it's not just about pulling them out of the situation. We know the residual effects, right? So a lot of people forget the body keeps the score. So regardless, if you repress, you can get out of a situation and you repress those memories and you start your life over, that's okay. Your body still feels the effects of those scars, right? And so it's not just pulling people out and getting them money and getting them help it's about also helping them process the emotional scarring that's already happened, right? So we do that. And the biggest thing, one of the biggest tools that abusers use is isolation, right? Is pulling people away from communities, family, and friends. And so the first thing we do is connect them with exactly that. Is a community. You first, as soon as you walk through the Latinos in Virginia, you got, well, at least in the Hampton Roads office, we're a little bit smaller, right? And so the way it worked is that it started in Richmond, and then now it expanded into the 757. So in our Richmond office, we have about 15 team members. And then in our Hampton Roads office, we have 3 team members, right? It was only 2, and it really only started with 1 over here. And in 2 years, it's grown to 3. I don't know where we'll be in the next 3 years, right? But the first thing we do is that now people come in through the doors and they see people that look like them, talk like them, have the same culture as them, right? Even our material,
That's so important. I'm telling you, that is so important. Yeah.
Right. And Viviana, have you ever seen material that it looks like it was thrown into Google Translate and then it's all the same, right? That's not what Latinos in Virginia does. Latino in Virginia, the language is right. Like, And we always talk about being not just bilingual but being bicultural, right? And a lot of people don't know that. What do you mean bicultural? It's not just white black, it's not just white Hispanic, black Hispanic, right? And even Hispanic is not Hispanic. Understanding the differences between the Hispanic cultures. A Dominican is not the same as a Puerto Rican. A Puerto Rican is not the same as a Mexican. A Mexican not the same as Salvadorian. And Salvadorian is not the same as Guatemalan. I just realized, right? So I work with a lot of Guatemalans within my community. And I just realized they have like 33 dialects in Guatemala, right? In one country, there's like 33 different dialects. So understanding that it's not just knowing their language, but understanding that there are cultural differences. And so I remember growing up in high school. Nothing against Mexicans, right? But it was just like the whole thing. It was like everybody who was Latino was Mexican, and I was like, I'm not Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, right? And so like that same concept is understanding, right? Like Puerto Ricans like their arroz con habichuela, con plátano maduro. Nosotros comemos alcapurria y pastelillo, right? Mexicans, they have their tacos, they eat their food, right? They have their pozole, which I love. But then I love Salvadorians because I love pupusas. And then I love Hondurans because I love eating baleadas, right? Everybody has their I would say their comfort places. And so that's what Latinos in Virginia offers. It's not just a place where you can get help. It's a place where you can find community, and you can find one of the like not surveys, one of the testimonials that came back. And I love it. I love reading it. I love using it in my presentations. And I found a little piece of home here in the States. That's big, right? That's big. And so that's where we pride ourselves. We pride ourselves in not only pulling people out of bad situations, but connecting them to a family that they can say, hey, I got a little piece of home here in the States. And that's Latinos in Virginia Empowerment Center in a nutshell.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. And I think that that's what gives it longevity.
Absolutely.
It's not just a band-aid, we do that when people call, because I do a lot of stuff in the community with Latinos, but you can't just call because you're hungry. Okay, like, I get it, right? And I'm gonna give you food, but like, how did we get here? Like, what's really happening, right? Like, let's talk about, like, who else is in the household, like, what's going on, so you can kind of get to the roots, so that we can get out of this space and really flourish and really do life as you wish to do life.
Yes.
And I think that's big, and I think that's awesome, right? Because non-Latinos that do not know our culture are like, oh, you're Mexican. Like the other day, I think like 2 days ago, I was talking to someone and they were like, oh, you're Puerto Rican. I'm like, no, I'm Colombian. And I don't get insulted, um,
Paisa, paisa.
because I love all cultures, right? So I don't get insulted, but I know some people do get insulted by comments like that. So I always make sure that I educate people. But I love the fact that because us Latinos, we know the differences between Mexicans and Dominicans and Colombians, and even within Mexicans, there's different regions within Mexico that they eat tacos different ways, right? So like,
Yes.
I'm Colombian, so we have empanadas or arepas, and so the way that they make arepas in Colombia is not the way that I make them here, or stuff like that. Or people from the coast and people from Bogota, just the dialect is different, right? And so I love the fact that you say that, because everybody's different. Sometimes people come to me because they want to learn Spanish, and the way that I explain it is because they talk about, like Colombian Spanish versus Puerto Rican Spanish. And I said, it's the same thing as hearing somebody speak English from New York versus Alabama. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
It is the same
Absolutely.
thing. We're the same people. And instead of saying soda, you're going to say soda pop, or, whatever the different, words that are used to describe things. So I love that. And I just wish that, uh, I'm engulfed a lot in the academic world, but I just wish that teachers, because teachers make such impact on children, and I just wish that the school systems would give education on multicultural, right? The stuff that you were talking about, because I know I read a book. It was an article that I was reading, and the teacher felt insulted by the kid. Like, she felt like the kid was being disrespectful because he never made eye contact with him. with a teacher, but it was within his culture that if he made eye contact with adults, it was disrespectful. So again, it's knowledge of culture, right? Um, and I know our producer Mark is doing the Sisters Inspire Sisters to Advance registration, and this is something older, but I do want to say that Barbara Smith, because it's at barbarasmith.com. She's actually the one that introduced me to Mark, and this is why Que Pasa Mujer exists. So I know Mark is doing this probably in error, but because of her, we're live today because I met her and she introduced me to Mark. But anyway, so yeah, so I love that. I love that concept because it's extremely unique and it really taps into the opposite of division. It really brings unity, and I think that that's how we can get longevity in programs.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I did want to ask you, so with Latinos, because I know when you and I first met, you were young into the organization, but then you were also in your church. And I am assuming, right, that everything that you have learned, because I remember at the beginning, you were learning so much from the organization. And I think you were like so high in like just the content that you were getting. And how have you been able to be that bridge for the people at your church? Because I'm sure you've seen it multiple times.
No, absolutely. So I think speaking from like a pastoral ministerial perspective, I think a lot of times we think we know how to reach our community, right? And so we open up the doors of our churches Sundays and Tuesdays, and people do come with needs, and people do come with, and we're able to fulfill needs here and there. We're not a huge organization, we're not super small, but we're also not big, right? So we're very limited in the resources that we can actually expend to be able to help people. And so you open the doors of your church and then you close them. And those are your operating hours. But the need is still there, right? And I actually was telling, I think I made this comment to you, Viviana. You were one of the people I said, I think I've done more good in 1 year in Latinos in Virginia than I did in the 6 years that I've been
I
in ministry.
remember that. Yep.
You know, and it is because I ventured outside of the four walls, right? We hear about the need. It's a whole nother thing when you're actually operating in the places and spaces of need. So I'm very, very thankful to Latinos in Virginia because yes, you are right. Like when I first started, just even learning, like the training itself, I called my supervisor at the time and I was like, hey, I didn't know I was training to be a lawyer, right? And so like learning about VAWA, learning about the Women's Act, Women's Rights Act, learning about like so many things. And I know we hear Women's Rights Act, that encompasses so many of the things that we enjoy today were pathways that were treaded by people that came before us, people that paved ways before us, like groups of people that paved way before us. And so we honor those spaces, especially like we're kind of getting we're close to Martin Luther King Day, right? And those are things, civil rights movements and things like that. These are things that paved the way to see what we're seeing today. It's not perfect, but man, I'm sure if you were to grab somebody from that time period, a woman or a Latino or a person, I remember my grandfather telling me, like, there's always been like, racism always exists, right? And separations exist. But then my grandfather was like, it was a little tough for me when I first got into the U.S. Army because we weren't accepted with the white community. We weren't accepted with the black community. It was like everybody was kind of like everybody fend for yourself. And so like that's a unique experience from a cultural perspective. And so like understanding those unique experiences and then respecting each community, being a pastor, you have to respect those things like within the community. And so Latinos in Virginia really just opens up your mind, right? Because you're in a space where not everybody is religious, not everybody thinks like you, not everybody talks like you, and so like they give you the tools that is necessary in order for you to be able to meet people right where they're at and then bring them into the spaces where they can receive help. So yeah, man, like the training process was arduous, but it was so insightful. And I'm really, really thankful that I actually said yes to the position, that they said yes to hiring, right? But that I also said yes to the position and saying, hey, this is something that I've never ventured into before, but I'm so glad I did. And I've learned a lot. You're right, Viviana. I was like a sponge. That first year, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to see everything. And now like I've created a rhythm and understanding the nonprofit space and us and the importance of staying in our lane with the mission that we have. Right.
Yeah. And as you're talking, it makes me think of Jocelyn, right? Um, so Jocelyn Vega, she's been on our show before. When she was here, she was working with Thrive at the time. And so it's crazy, right? Just how God orchestrates things, right? In my opinion, it's like you're with this organization. Jocelyn was with this organization that does for community, right? And now
Yes.
you guys are in the same church, like helping community. I think it makes your church so powerful because of the resources that you have access to, that you know of, right? And I think it's amazing that as a pastor of a church, you're still connected to Latinos in Virginia, because you know about all these resources that are available, and you see all the things that go wrong, and you see how things can be alleviated, and you can give that to your congregation. I think it's
Absolutely.
amazing. I think it's
Absolutely.
amazing.
If you
Like
were to
I
step
love
foot, if
that.
you were to step foot in our location and talk about like what makes us passionate, and it wasn't always like that. I think Viviana, like I think we come in with the preconceived notions of what we think ministry should look like and things like that. But like when it came down to it, we realized that the real work was out in the community. And Pastor Joss, so I call her Pastor Joss. Obviously, she runs my Newport News location along with her husband Benny Machado. And then shout out to Evie, Pastor Evie and Pastor Caesar, which Pastor Evie is actually part of the FACE program, and she works in Heritage High School, and she's reaching our kids, right? I think it's important. I think it's important that if you are passionate about anything, in our case, we're passionate about the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? And we see that in the gospel of Jesus Christ, he reached the need first. He didn't go up to people and preach. He went up to people and said, "What can I do for you? Like what do you need?" And he would give them their healing. He would give them their sustainment. And then he would give them the gospel. A lot of times we want to put the horse before the carriage. And these places, getting in these spaces, gives us the opportunity. When she was with Thrive, you're able to feed people, you're able to pay their rent, you're able to pay their bills, right? In my case, I'm able to pull people out of situations that are terrible, right? And offer them a hope for tomorrow. In Pastor Evie's case, she's helping children that are having trouble adjusting and assimilating within our ESL programs, right? And speaking about the education piece, I know you grazed over it earlier, but I'm really happy that programs like New Horizons and my daughter, she's in the VOTEC program. Super smart. My daughter's academically, she's not challenged, but she loves to do hair and cosmetology and something she's passionate about. And I'm really glad that our educational system, I think they could do better, right? But I also am very happy that they're making strides in trying to meet kids where they're at, in trying to focus on what they're strong at. And not every child learns the same, not every child reacts the same, not every so like in those spaces, like I'm really glad that they're creating these programs for our children to be able to be educated in the ways that make them the most successful in what they're passionate and good at. But yeah, man, like reaching the community from the perspective of like understanding how to get connected within the community, it does make your community stronger. It's made our church way stronger, and it's made our church, I think the best word that I can use is made our church more aware. We are sometimes so enclosed in our box that we only have one perspective, and we speak from one perspective, and we speak from a place of like, like never really having suffered in these areas. And so it makes us aware of what really is happening in our community.
Yeah, definitely. I've come in contact in the past with pastors that are so disconnected from youth, for example, or disconnected with what's going on in the community. So like, with this whole immigration and people getting deported, I've had a couple of pastors reach out because they want to help, but they don't know how to help, right? So there's only a handful of them. There's some that they're just kind of sitting back, but I don't blame them. I think it's lack of knowledge again, fear. They don't know how to tap maybe into certain places or certain communities. And that's why I think it's amazing, the work that you're doing in the church and outside of the church, because it's so well connected. Like you said, it just makes the church be aware, makes the people be aware. And there's certain sermons that you can give with this extra street knowledge, we'll call it, right? That
Yes.
is not necessarily happening in the church, because abuse does happen, rapes happen, like finances get crazy, and all of these things happen. And I think I've been to your church before, and so it's like it allows you guys to have these conversations, because you know that it's real. But guess what? You also know that there is a solution to it, right? And then you make the connection that it is a spiritual movement, right? So I think it's all of that. I think it's amazing. In reference to education, the point that you were making, I have a friend, her son was going to one of the high schools in Newport News, struggling, falling asleep, being rebellious at home, being rebellious at school. So I helped her out, a couple of other family members. He was pulled out, was put in a GED program. He finished the GED. He passed everything. He took the GED. He took it because the GED is like broken down into different sections. The first time he took it, he passed every single section. So now
Yes.
he has his GED. He took the initiative to go get a job. He has a job. He's saving money to get a car, and he's 17. He would he
Yes.
would have he would have been, I don't know what, had he stayed in the school system, because in the public school system, because it just wasn't a good fit for him at the time. He
Absolutely.
lost his dad, single mom, just a lot of who knows. I tell parents all the time that we have to give our young people grace, because there's a lot of content coming in to the kids themselves, their peers, social media, the parents, the teachers, so much coming in, right? And so we really have to give them grace, in my opinion, because it's too much. And then what do they do with all that information, And you have to allow them to process, and still, like I said before, to give them a platform where they can, whatever their thoughts are, so that they can express them like verbally to someone, you know
Absolutely.
and I think that's extremely important. I know there's a lot of young people with self-esteem issues, suicide issues, a lot of mental health, and I just think it's awesome that you have somebody in your congregation that is connected to the school system, because I think, again, it's another resource, right? To be able to help the families. So I think that's great that you guys have. And that's just, 3 people you have mentioned within your staff. I'm sure there's others that add to the substance of your church. So I think I congratulate you that everything is just kind of lined up that way for you. It's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you got to lead the way in those things. And number one, thank you, Viviana. Thank you for sharing how you view us. It means a lot, truly. And we don't do it for the recognition. We do it for the sake of just really, really leaving something behind that's greater than ourselves. And like, to speaking to the point of kids, we're living in a generation that is infusing so much information at rapid light speed. I remember I was part of the generation. So you said you were in you were already crossing out of the 40s club. Like,
Late
I just
40s, Mike, late
late
40s.
40s, right? I'm just crossing into the 40s. So I hit 40 this past year, and I feel better than ever. So I'm embracing it. I love my 30s. I'm in love with my 40s. I feel like I'm in my 20s, but I got 40-year-old money and 40-year-old experience, and that's a whole lot better. So um
Hmm.
but when it comes down to it, they're being infused with so much information that, and when you were saying, what do they do with that information? Spontaneously combust is what they're going to do with that, right? We're living in a generation right now where they're receiving that information, being told that they have to feel all these feelings, but not being told how to feel them. And they're running in. We're running into cases where we're seeing depression rates are high, suicide rates are high. Like, literally, everybody's more and more addicted, and the addictions are not even what you would think would be drug addictions or things like that. Everybody is addicted to the next dopamine hit, which is the next like on Facebook, the next Instagram like, the next Instagram post. If my stuff goes viral, do people care? Do people follow me? And it was a stress that, like, I remember when like back in the day when MySpace first came out. I think it was Black Planet and Mi Gente was like the
Oh,
bigger
yeah, yeah.
the bigger platforms than MySpace. And it was super hard to post one photo. Now you have all of these thoughts, and they've created an avenue where so many unfiltered thoughts are just coming right at you, right? Nobody's thinking, everybody's a keyboard gangster. Everybody's not thinking about their fellow man, just posting whatever randomness comes to their mind, right? And our children, so like we as adults are processing this, and we're having a tough time processing this with all of the years that we have on this earth. I can't even imagine how my daughter is processing, my 17-year-old daughter is processing this information and trying to make sense of all of it. I sit in the car with her and I have some conversations, and she asked me so many questions, right? And trying to raise a righteous youth. Like just even the concept of telling my daughter, hey, I really want you to make it to the altar pure, right? And when we say pure, I want you to not have any sexual experience before you make it to the altar. And you know what I'm battling against? Like sexual immorality all over the social media, all over shows, all over the things. But I have to talk about it. Is it comfortable? Heck no. Because I got to picture my daughter being chased by little young teenage boys, which boys are princes, right? Like you are righteous men. You are men that are meant to be with one woman to raise your kids, to be a successful man. And I'm gonna say man of God, like, and people ask me, why are you a Christian? Because it makes me the man that I am today. Like I can be a good father because I follow Christ. I can be a good husband because I follow Christ. I can be a good friend because I follow Christ. It's not me, it's the Christ in me, right? And so like I always like to tell the men, like the young men, you don't have nothing to prove. All you need to do is be a good man, be a man that's responsible, and take care of your family, and be a good father, and be faithful to your wife. Your wife, right? And so like that's the thing, like processing this information, and them trying to figure out how to navigate that space. It's now, and it's progressively getting more open and more worse. And the reins are, nobody's pulling the reins like at all. And we're seeing this all around, not just with like the typical stuff, like with the stuff that really, but like even in politics and even in the way the media portrays all of this information. It's so much, it's gotten to the point where like I turn it off. Like I literally just turn off my phone. Because I can't take the influx of all that information and not knowing what's true, what's not, what's really happening, what's not happening. So yeah, so like speaking to our teenagers, I feel for them.
Oh yeah, it's essential. I'm very raw with my kids. So they're uncomfortable when we're having the conversations. I'm not, you know. And I guess, because I have sons and I'm a female, but I don't get uncomfortable. They do. They're like, "Oh my God, mom, what are you talking about?" But I'm gonna forever have those conversations. And so that's just the type of parent I am. But yeah, I just think young people are so sensitive. We've like, it's kind of like they're in a crystal ball, and we just have to be so, like really cuidarlos muy bien porque son
Claro
tan
que sí.
sensibles, tan sensibles, so vulnerable, so gullible, all of those words. And I'm telling you, you can preach something like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And then all of a sudden, man, like really? Like we've had these conversations. I told you, your dad told you, ah, you know, but
Yeah, that's funny because we were there too. I remember my mother used to tell me something that I guess they told her when she was growing up. Hijo fuiste, padre será, así como
yeah,
dijiste, así te lo harán. And I'm
yeah,
like, God forbid, man. No,
yeah,
please, please. My daughter, I'm blessed, man. Like I'm gonna be honest, not perfect, right? There's no such thing as perfection, but I'm super blessed with my kids. With my daughter in general, she is. I can't say enough about how amazing that kid is. And I like to think I had something to do with that. But she has
of
two
course.
parents, three parents, right? That we're a blended family. And so like she has three parents that love her, guide her. And that's the thing. Like I can't stress this enough. I love the fact that Viviana even went down this pipeline, which is communication, man. Like talking with her kids. I remember like I guess growing up in my household, my mom was kind of like a rebel like as she was growing up. So she grew up very traditional, very traditional church. They didn't allow her to use makeup, they didn't allow her to cut her hair. It was very legalistic, things like that. So my mom kind of ventured out, always loved the Lord, but like she wanted to pave her own path. And one of the things that I really commend about my parents is that they really had open conversations. My father was really, really straight up. My mom was really straight up about the gospel and about life. And I still made my mistakes. I still went down. I still went down my certain roads, and but at the end of the day, I remembered those conversations. And you might not think it, but what you're doing with those conversations is giving them seeds that will create the foundation that will hold them together. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, so that when he grows old, he won't depart from it. So you might not see it now. You might think it's a waste. It's never a waste. Keep on talking till you're blue in the face. Keep on putting that foundation. Keep on laying that foundation. Because one
Mhm.
day they're going to call you randomly and they're going to say, Mom, I'm so thankful that you had that conversation. Luckily, my daughter called me like 6 months ago and she was like, Dad, I just want to tell you I love you and thanks for talking to me the way you are. I call my mom. I do a Stewards of Children course, which is how to protect against sexual abuse in our kids. Which, man, like when I throw it up on social media, I recommend you guys sign up for that course. If you are a young parent, if you are a parent at all, if you have grandkids, and the stuff that it tells you to look out for to protect our kids from sexual abuse is wild. I want you to think about this stat: 1 in every 10 kids have been sexually abused or will be sexually abused. That's a lot of children. So think about 10 kids in your life, and one of them is either been sexually abused or will be sexually abused, right? And so, like, I remember calling my mom after giving these classes and saying, Thank you so much. Because I used to get so mad when she didn't let me stay over people's houses, when she didn't let me. And thank you so much for caring so much about me that you protected me from having to live through this trauma, because it is traumatic, the things that happen when you lose grip on the protection of your children, on the protection of your family. So, like, hey, you might think that you're being extra. And I always tell my daughter, it's not about you. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if something happened to you. So it's not even about you. It's about me. I want to make sure that I can live with a clear conscience that I did everything I could to protect you.
Yeah, that's big. And I know the abuse happens. I know several people that have been abused when they were younger, and it is a lifetime scar. You heal from it a little bit and you overcome, but then somehow it comes back again. Just kind of different situations throughout your lifetime where you have those memories and you get triggered at times. Whether it ends up being in full flown, full abuse or uh como se dice, rape, or just being molested, just being touched, all of it, it's still trauma
Yes.
regardless of the severity of how it was done. But yeah, I just and again, it's conversations, it's having those conversations. And I know it's a Latino thing, where we don't let our kids spend the night, or we're just overprotective, but that's just what we do. And I think it's just like you said, protection. And full transparency, right? So with my 21-year-old, he got me upset. When was it? Friday. So I was talking to him on the phone, and I was like, you're being, I do this for you, and like I ask you to do one thing, you don't do the one thing. And I started crying, because I cry usually out of frustration. And then so he called me today, right? Like, I was leaving church, he called me. He was like, "Are we good?" And I was like, "Of course we're good, But, I had to explain to him, like, you have to understand that I'm an only child. I grew up without my dad. So I explained to him, like, in a softer way, to say, like, I need you to be there for me sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
My mother's here, my grandmother's here. And if I ask you to do this one thing, like, I know you're busy Monday through Thursday, but hey, give me some time on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I'm not asking for every day. But again, it's because I believe my heart is in the right place, his heart is in the right place, and there is going to be conflict at times. But I don't ever want to become so hard, if that makes sense, right? And I don't think that I will, because I told him today, I said, you have great parents, you have good parents. I said, everybody has a mother and everybody has a father, but not everybody is a good mother or a good father. But you have a good mother and a good father, so, like, you need to acknowledge that, right? And not take it for granted. So we had that conversation today, and he was like, I'm gonna do better.
You never
So
know the struggle. You don't know the struggle you've never been through, right? And so
yeah,
and that's like,
yeah.
which, by the way, shout out. I love your mom and I love your grandma. If you've never met Viviana's mom and grandma, they are fabulous. And her grandma is like, I think your grandma is pushing like late 80s, early 90s.
My grandmother turned 90 in November.
And she doesn't look a day over 65. So Viviana, we already know your family is a
Yeah.
family of vampires. You
Yeah,
guys
great
don't.
genes. Yes. That's me in the future, Mike.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's amazing. But yes, yeah, 100%. I think our kid, they don't mean it. Like that's the bigger thing. I chalk it up to like, I have my moment with my daughter where we didn't see eye to eye. She's growing up. She's thinking, hey, I know everything, right? And I know I don't even have to tell you about that. It's just one of those things where like they don't know the struggle of not having parents that don't care. They don't know the struggle of like, not having parents that aren't there, that aren't there for them. And so,
Mhm.
but again, one day we're gonna get that. Just like you
Yeah.
ended up getting it like a couple days later.
Yeah, it was quick because it happened Friday, and then I got the
Yeah,
phone call today. And but
absolutely.
I like the fact that I can express that my feelings, my feelings were hurt, and I'm not changing that. Like they were hurt.
Right.
And it's okay, right? Because maybe I've hurt his feelings in the past, but I think it's the communication piece to be. And he didn't text me; he called. So I'm appreciative, and I feel grateful that he called and not text, because that's
Absolutely.
also different for a 21-year-old, right? So I just think it's the communication and just making sure that your heart is in the right place as we parent kids. And sometimes we parent children that are not our biological children, to make sure that, your heart is in the right place, Mike, as you deal with these people that call with different situations. And I think the hardest part for me at times is wanting to help someone, but I'm not going to put myself in a situation because you need help. That's why at the beginning of the show, we've been trying to get you on the show for a while, but I just think that this is the right time. And I think
Yeah,
when we try to rush things, just things don't work out properly as they need to. I'm big on just, hey, I'm going to express this to you, that this is a need, that this is a want. And then I just kind of sit back and I wait really for you to decide that this is the moment to do it, because the worst thing to do is to force someone to act on something and they don't really want to do it, right? Whether it's with your children, your spouse, your coworker. Fortunately, I'm self-employed, so I'm able to um, I don't say direct people to do things, but even within my job, I can give someone instruction, but I always ask, hey, can you work on this day? Are you able to do this? I always ask because um, I hate to put, I hate to tell you, hey, you have to do this. Except when my kids were little, I did do that
yeah,
when they were little. But yeah, just overall, I don't like to impose people on, making them feel like they're forced to do certain things. And I think that's part of making sure that my heart is in the right place, and that people around me, that their heart is in the right place. 100% of the time, probably not, but the more I'm in that realm, the better I am, the healthier I am. Just overall, my mental and my physical is better if I'm in a place like that.
absolutely, absolutely. That. Thank you for sharing that. Number one, and kudos to you, man. Like big ups. Entrepreneurship, definitely not easy, but it's definitely one of the things that is recommended. And then making different avenue and revenue streams in this season. There's so many things for us to do, and not putting our lot of eggs into one basket. I
Mhm.
think something that I would hate to end this call without kind of pointing out is when it comes down to us, looking for help. Like, don't be too afraid to ask for help. Like, there's so many people within the community that really, really want to assist and really want to just kind of be there for the community. And so there are resources out there. There are places for you to go, whether you need, mental health assistance, emotional assistance, financial assistance, medical assistance. And so, like, I would like to shout out Latinos of Virginia one more time, and let people know, like Latinos en Virginia está aquí. Si necesitan ayuda, si están en una situación de violencia doméstica, de abuso sexual, si necesitan, y no estamos hablando de personas que lo han pasado ahora, sino en el pasado y cargan con esas cicatrices y necesitan sanar. Yo lo que le digo a la gente, nunca es muy tarde para poder sanar, y nosotros tenemos un grupo de apoyo para la persona que lo está pasando ahora y para la persona que necesita ayuda en salir o en procesar lo que le haya pasado en el pasado. So latinosenvirginia.org es en nuestro website. Pueden llamar la línea 24/7. Siempre va a haber alguien para contestarle. Nuestra oficina está en la 3808 Poplar Hill Road, en la ciudad de Chesapeake, Virginia. Y estamos abiertos de 8:45 de la mañana hasta las 9 o hasta las 5 de la tarde, lunes a viernes. Y luego nos ven en todos los eventos de las ciudades, de las 7 ciudades, y cubrimos las 7 ciudades. So, no importa en cuál ciudad tú vivas, nosotros estamos aquí para ayudarte. Y somos la única organización en lo que es el estado de Virginia que trata con víctimas de violencia doméstica, abuso sexual y tráfico humano en la comunidad latina. So, si estás también en la ciudad de Chesterfield o en el área de Richmond, puedes llamar a nuestra oficina de ese lado y buscar ayuda. So, la ayuda está aquí y nosotros estamos dispuestos a caminar con ustedes, trabajar con ustedes y sobre todo asegurarnos que puedan salir hacia adelante para vivir la vida que fue intencionada para ustedes. Una vida fructífera, una vida sin violencia y una vida llena de amor y de progreso para ti y para tu familia. So yeah, just wanted to cover that one more time.
Yeah. Y si se les olvida, solamente vayan y Google y ponga Latinos en Virginia y la información va a estar ahí. So yes, I'm very excited. We can have you on the show again whenever you're ready, because there's other things that I didn't get to ask.
You call me. Now you got my phone number, you got my
Yes.
email, you got my work number.
Yes.
Just
I
let
know where
me
you
know.
work. I know where you worship, all that. So I'm going to come looking for you.
Absolutely.
Great. I love
And
it.
also oasisvirginia.org. If you guys want to get connected, you don't have a church community in Newport News or in Chesapeake, estamos aquí para ustedes, both Spanish and English. And then let Viviana know and she'll come and accompany you as well.
Of course I will. Yep. So again, thank you for your time. We'll definitely have you on again, because there's other topics, other things that we didn't get to talk about today. And so we're here every Sunday at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. So we go live Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And then our producer, Mark, runs the show throughout the week as well in other countries. So this is watched through Roku TV. Our channel is Pod TV, and our show is Que Pasa Mujer. So I hope our producer is ready with the poem. If not, we will see you guys next Sunday at 4:00 all over again. And I hope you have a great week, Mike.
Thank you. You as well, Viviana. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Have an amazing week.
You too.